Namaste again. It's great to begin a fresh new session today in our new onward series of vibrational healing towards our infinite journeys together. And this is perhaps the first. Yesterday we did a recap of what we had done in the 9-day journey we had starting 18th April, ending on 26th April. So we did a short recap on that yesterday. And today we will be attempting a very, very important aspect of our own vibrational makeup, of our own energy centers, which are whirling at unimaginable speeds every moment. How these whirling vortices, which we call chakras, how do they determine our nature? So I'm sure a lot of us have already studied the chakras or heard about the chakras. Some of us may have attended or, Reiki or pranic healing or Hatha Yoga or other forms of healing where the mention and the use of chakras is solicited. But did you know that chakras are not just centers which you can use to heal your organs and your psychosomatic conditions, but also chakras are your centers of manifestation which determine who you are. So today we'll take that little journey together. Namaste, Smita, and whoever else I cannot see at the moment. So first of all, for those who have joined us in this session only from this series, those who were not with us for the 9 days earlier, let me reintroduce the chakras briefly to you. So what are chakras? They are different planes of our being, of our body, of our mind-body complex. In other words, of our complete makeup of consciousness. Consciousness involves many, many levels. Very ordinarily, the mixture of our vitality, our energy, of our emotions, of our bodily processes, of different planes and parts of our body, our cells, our organs, our tissues, our health conditions which are connected with different organs, our conditions that are connected with emotions, our conditions that are connected with our mind, and the play of our mind versus our body versus the environment, etc. All those things are somehow or the other connected with our different energy centers. And a proper understanding, a proper and a proper coordination of all these chakras make life harmonious and progressive and evolutionary. So now let us attempt to understand ourselves since the time we were born, since we remember ourselves, since our childhood. What kind of people are we? How were we in our childhood and during our growing up years? Who were we as people in terms of what are the kind of ailments and illnesses that we often had since our childhood? Perhaps some of us were often prone to colds and coughs. Some of us may have been prone to headaches. Some of us may have been prone to skin rashes. These are different elemental states. Skin rashes to do with your too much of your fire elemental state. headaches, a lot to do with your Agnya Chakra, and so on. So there are different aspects of our health conditions which are also connected to different chakras. So one hint that you will get about which is your predominant chakra is by looking at what are the negatives and positives of any chakra, and did you have both the negatives and the positives of that chakra somewhere during your growing up years and onward. What happens after we grow up, we are a mixture of many things. We are a mixture of what our parents want to be, we are a mixture of what we do with our environment, etc. But as you're going through your childhood, you get a hint of what are your natural processes, your natural feelings, your natural attitudes, the way you like to be, the health conditions you have. The mixture of the negative and positive of a chakra, which is predominant in your body, rules your life from the time you're a child. So it could be one dominant chakra, or it could be a combination of two chakras, one more dominant, one less dominant. But generally, this is how we begin our lives. And as we go forward in life, once we understand ourselves well, we are able to harness the energy of all our chakras one by one and make each one powerful and harmonious and evolutionary and coordinated. Okay, so very quickly I will go through the characteristics of a person connected with one's chakras, characteristics and probably ailments that you have. So like I mentioned earlier, your Prithvi Tattva or your earthy elemental state is connected with your lowest chakra, which is at your Adhar, which is in line with your tailbone, which is in line with your excretory organs, from where you expel all that is toxic and unwanted in your system. So that is your Mool Adhar Chakra, Mooladhara Chakra. So what is, if you look at what is Adhar? Adhar is that which creates steadiness, which creates base, which creates sure footing on the ground. That's your Adhar. So those who have a strong Mooladhara Chakra are very good creators of security, of steadiness in their own lives and in the lives of people around them. So if somebody has a dream that we want to build a house, a good Mooladhara Chakra, a strong Mooladhara Chakra person would be able to very quickly get his team together and get that done. A Mooladhara Chakra person likes to create Adhar, likes to create physical solidarity, material solidarity in one's life. So such a person would have a strong Mooladhara Chakra, but may also suffer from ailments of that chakra. Now, what can be the ailments of the chakra? Ailments of the chakra can be problems with bones, bone marrow, leukemia, cancer, blood disorders would be connected with the Mooladhara Chakra. Piles, things connected with your anal passage, excretory problems. So anything that's connected with the bottommost organs, your tailbone, problem with the lowest vertebrae in your spine, the tailbone. So those are the organs connected with the Mooladhara Chakra, and many of these ailments, as I have mentioned, would be connected with that as well. So that's one. What is the next chakra? So I'm going to really go very fast with this because I want to give you a little time to think about what you were in your childhood. You can also start thinking as I'm speaking and think of what the ailments were as you were growing up. What are the health conditions you had and what were the tendencies that you had? Okay. Were you a person who liked to be with yourself? Were you a person who liked to network a lot? Were you a person who liked to be creative all the time, to paint and to draw or to sing or to write or something like that? Because each of these characteristics are connected with one chakra. So, Swadhisthana chakra, rasa, movement, the apaha tattva, the fluid elemental state. In sometimes we say water, but it's actually the flows, the rasas. Swadhisht, that which creates rasa. So, what is the Swadhisthana chakra? It is the chakra which controls your reproductory organs from where your child is processed, not from where your child is fed, that is the umbilical cord at the Manipura, but where your child is processed, where your child is held together, where all the juices are processed, where the nourishment is given of the mother. The womb is in the Swadhisthana chakra, where all the rasas of life, the creative rasas, the sexual organs, all the rasas that are created, all the fluids that are created are all at the Swadhisthana chakra, at the level of the belly and at the level of the lower lumbar vertebrae, lower back, lower back. So what happens at the Swadhisthana chakra? Movement. People who like to do a lot of theatrics, theater people, dancers, expressors with the body, people who like to express themselves with the body have strong Swadhisthana chakras from birth. People may have problems with their belly. They may have problems with their large intestines, problems in digesting their food. Things like that may happen again with people who have a predominant Swadhisthana chakra, because the good part and the bad part comes together until you harness the good and lessen the bad. So that is your Swadhisthana chakra. Also, sometimes in your life, you suddenly lost your job. Suddenly, this lockdown has happened and it has hit you really badly. Suddenly, you have lost a very important relationship. You might just, in a few days, find that you have a severe lower back pain. Or you suddenly develop sciatica, which means your vertebrae press against each other and your nerve down your leg gets affected, sciatica. So, ailments connected to your ovaries, your womb, your uterus, your large intestines, your lower back, all these organs are connected to your Swadhisthana chakra, and you can have sometimes problems with any of these organs or different conditions. Let's quickly go to the Manipura chakra. Manipura chakra is the pura of your money, the place where your fire, your life energy, your movement in life, moving forces, Ashwa, the horse of your consciousness, that which runs, that which gives energy for life's processes, is the Manipura chakra, the bang center of your whole being. So this is where the child is connected to the mother with the umbilical cord. So when your life force has completely gone into the child, then that cord is cut, because you have passed on the necessary pranic energy from your being to the child, so that the child can now develop and move forward with its own prana. So the flow, the push of pranic energy, the fire elemental state, is at the Manipura chakra. It controls all the organs that have yellow substance, liver, spleen, liver and your appendix, your stomach, all these, your colon, all these organs are connected with your Manipura chakra. Your middle, the middle of your back is also connected with that. What kind of emotions are connected with it? Great passion, great attachment, great expectation, great competitiveness, great networking ability, wanting to do a lot with a lot of people and get a lot of uh, uh, um, personal visibility also in the process, ambition. So all these characteristics are connected with the Manipura, very strong Manipura chakra people. Hmm? But you can also have pain in your stomach, you can also have gastric problems, you can have liver problems, you can have bile problems, you might be throwing up if you get very upset and angry, or too excited or something like that. So problems like that can exist with people who have very, very strong Manipura chakras, but they also can be great event managers, great networkers, great social media people, great party people, and so on. Because that fire, they want to extend that pranic energy and do a lot with it. So that's Manipura very quickly. Then we come to the Anahata Chakra at the heart, level of the heart. So that's the ocean of your consciousness. That's the samudra, the deepest part of that feeling of me. That feeling of me who is one with the universe. The feeling of me, the giver of love. The feeling of me, the giver of purity. So all the finer giving traits come from the Anahata Chakra. People who have predominant Anahata Chakras since the time of birth are very fine, sensitive people. If you speak loudly, they get, upset. They get unsettled because they have very fine sensitivities. They are great givers. They like to give. They like to give a lot of love. They are not people who like to be in the limelight. They would love to help their sister or their mother from behind. Such are Anahata Chakra people, quiet workers, steady workers, givers of love, but also take on a lot of anxiety within them sometimes. Heart gets affected. Asthma is connected with the Anahata Chakra, because when you constrict, when your emotions constrict, then you cannot breathe properly. And that constricting happens through the Anahata Chakra at the heart level. So asthma is a health condition connected with the Anahata Chakra. And all the organs around the heart area, the chest, the heart, uh, uh, your food pipe, the esophagus here, the upper back. If you have problems with the upper back, stiff upper back, too much tension, too much worry at the level of emotions, not at the level of competitiveness, but at the level of emotions. So when you're too emotionally affected, uh, and if you find that happening to you in your childhood as well, that sudden changes in your life or sudden things that really upset you can actually create serious health conditions. And you might have found that during your growing up years or your teenage years or even later. Things that suddenly creep up inside, you keep holding things within, and then suddenly it comes out into something which is not easily found because it's hidden inside your Anahata. So people like that are Anahata Chakra people. And then we have um, Vishuddhi Chakra people. Who are Vishuddhi Chakra people? People who have a predominant Vishuddhi Chakra action since the time they were born and all through their lives while growing up and so on. What happens with Vishuddhi Chakra people? You find you'll have coughs and colds very often through your childhood. You get little depressed, you'll get a cough and cold. Connected with depression also. Connected with not feeling good. So if you're a kind of person who's been creative, who enjoys expressing oneself through a painting, through a song, through writing something, and so on, you might be a Vishuddhi Chakra person, but you might also find that you have problems with the throat, coughs and colds, congestions, thyroid. Thyroid is a condition connected with the Vishuddhi Chakra, the thyroid gland. Okay. So namaste to everyone who's been saying namaste. So Vishuddhi Chakra, thyroid, throat conditions, laryngitis, pharyngitis, bronchial problems, all these. That's the Vishuddhi Chakra. Also spondylitis. Sorry. Spondylitis, too much tension in the neck because of lack of ability to express oneself. You're not expressing yourself enough. Thinking too much, but not flowing creatively, not expressing yourself very well. So, when you have a condition like that, or if you have had conditions like that ever since you've been growing up, you're probably a Vishuddhi Chakra person. But maybe you've also been an extremely creative person, extremely expressive person, very eloquent, either in speech or in writing or in painting or in making something beautiful with your hands. So all these kinds of expressions. Vishuddhi Chakra is also called the externalizing mind. And what is this? This is your Vyoma Tattva, ether. What did we go through? Earth at the Muladhara, the water or the fluid elemental state at the Swadhisthana, the fire at the Manipura, the air at the Anahata at the heart, and the Vyoma, air or Vayu at the heart, and ether or Vyom at the throat, at the Vishuddhi Chakra. Okay? So I hope you're remembering what I'm saying to think of who you really are. And then we come to the third eye, the Agnya Chakra. Agya, Agnya, Ajna, various pronunciations. Okay? So, what is this? This is in line with your pituitary gland, your Agnya Chakra. It is in line with, it is controlling your neural networks in your mind, in your brain. All your neural networks are controlled from here. Your center of will, your center of will force, your center of command. So you will actually be also able to tell certain people who are Agnya Chakra people by the way they look at you. They have very intense ways of looking at people. Their gaze does not shift easily. You see people like that, even while they are smiling, they're very intent people, the way they look at you, and their gaze does not shift easily. Their eyes can pierce through you if they're very, very strong Anahata Chakra people. People like Uri Geller, you might have heard of him. He could bend spoons and forks by looking at them. That's Agnya Chakra person. Such a person can also have very severe headaches, can also have nervous problems, can also have hyper anxiety, can also have very vivid kind of hallucinations because the neural networks can go out of tune. They might think that, they are specially blessed that they are having these visions, but it could all just be a malfunction of neural networks as well. So that is the Agnya Chakra. Of course, there's lots more to say about that, but in very short. So people who are like that would find that as they are growing through their childhood, they might have an ability to influence people a lot just through the surety of their will and what they're doing. They also might find that they didn't want to be with too many people around them because they couldn't relate to the way other people were around them. So they might be very concentrated and they might like to do what they do. They might like to be in their own world a bit, even depending on what their environment offers them. And now we come to the Sahasrara Chakra. There are other chakras in between which are not commonly discussed all the time in Hatha Yoga, but they exist. They also exist in the 9 levels of Sri Vidya, which we might cover at some point. Srividya is not an easy journey to take. It requires a lot of inner preparation and a lot of surrender to the universal love, to the universal forces, and so on. So, coming to Sahasrara Chakra, what is Sahasrara Chakra? It is the dish antenna of your consciousness. It's 1,000 petals. Petals are a metaphor. They're not no real petals made out there which you can't see. But petals means there are 1,000. I mean, that's what it's called. That there are 1,000 protrusions from this chakra which are antennae to the universal forces. And they're called petals because petal can be closed or open. So all our chakras have petals, which can be free flowing or they can be blocked. And the whole process of learning the bija mantras, learning the different tools by which you can make your nadis clean and flow and your petals open and flowing and nourishing and empowering, that's the whole science of Nad, Yoga, of different kinds of expressions of Shakti and Nad in our culture, which is the whole gamut of vibrational healing that goes across many practices in our culture. And together, from today onward, we are exploring these many vibrational practices through many aspects of Indian culture and religious practice, spiritual practice, scientific practice, and so on. In fact, there was no separation between religion, culture, and science in the past. So to even demarcate it as separate is a falsehood. Science was completely ingrained into our cultural practices for the health of our body. Religion was not separate from culture. Our culture was a set of practices which later began to be called religion. There was no separation between Vaishnavism and Shaivism and so on and so forth. These isms are very new things. They're only a couple of 100 years old. It was all one composite culture with many beautiful individual practices which then became group practices and then finally were termed as religion. Otherwise, they're just different practices like all of us might do in our lives today. So, coming back to Sahasrara Chakra. So in our lives, we probably have only a few of these antennae open and receiving cosmic information, cosmic energy, cosmic descent. We are a channel to the universal forces in only little bits right now. And that is why we live in this triple chord of existence, like I said, between this constant play of mana, the general conscious mind, the pranic flow, prana, which is the vital being, and the material being, the physical being, the anna, the annamaya kosha, the physical, our physical reality, our vital emotional reality, and our general mental reality, which is not even thinking about intuition, about analogical insights, about telepathy. You don't even realize that all these things exist all the time. Sometimes you might get something and you get very excited about it. Oh, how did I know this will happen in the future? How did I get a telepathy with this person? So you get glimpses of it sometimes, and you start talking more about it than actually concentrating on developing different levels of your consciousness to do the work that this life has got for you to do. Why are you here? Why are you on this earth? It's a question we need to ask ourselves quite often. So, Sahasrara is that chakra. If a person has a predominant Sahasrara chakra, what might happen in their childhood? Such people may get a lot of dreams. They may get just a lot of dreams and unexplained dreams, insights. Active pineal gland may be a very good biological clock, or it can go haywire if you have the lights on at night. You know, your pineal gland is controlled by the Sahasrara chakra, and if you're a person who keeps the light on through the night, does not give their mind rest with darkness, you know, the nature gives light and dark so that the mind gets rest. But in our lives today, we hardly give ourselves darkness. We have the lights on most of the time. We sleep late. Even when we sleep, maybe we don't have enough darkness in our room. And that affects our nervous system, that affects our brain. So, people who have a very strong Sahasrara chakra will have sometimes hallucinations or just a lot of dreams, will have perhaps stronger intuition than others, may have headaches in their childhood, which are not headaches here, but headaches in the head. So, so if you find yourself a person like that, a person who cannot understand this material world, you know, if you're the kind who's always been confused with this material world and why people are the way they are and why life is the way it is, and you live in a different reality. You might be a kind of a genius, a mathematics genius. You might be a physicist. You might have only been interested in deciphering the secrets of the universe, not interested in event management, not interested in social media, not interested in getting something physical together, you know, not necessarily any of these things. You might be interested in deciphering the secrets of the universe if you have a strong Sahasrara chakra. So, very quickly, I have covered 7 chakras for you among the infinite chakras and thousands of chakras that we have in our body. But these are considered 7 dominant chakras in our body. So we have discussed these in very brief. And I now want you to reflect for a couple of minutes. I'm sure you're already reflecting as I have been speaking. And some of you may have some answers, some of you for whom it has been very obvious which your dominant chakra has been because of the way you are, because of your nature, would be feeling very happy already. And some of you might be confused because you might find yourself a combination of two, which is fine. It's absolutely fine to be confused in life, because only out of confusion do you strive towards greater clarity and greater focus and greater answers to come. Imagine if there wasn't any question left in life and no confusion, how would you evolve? So confusion is welcome, no problem with it. Okay? So I'm just going to keep quiet for a few moments. And in the meantime, if any of you are absolutely sure by now as to which was your dominant chakra, you can start, if you feel like, you can start, communicating on chat and say, yes, I've discovered that I am this chakra because of this reason. So we can try to discover who we are through our chakras. And then, once we discover that, we will understand what we should do in our lives through our dominant chakras to get the best out of ourselves. Because if you have a dominant chakra and you have not been harnessing the great gifts that that chakra gives you, then you have lost opportunities. So the important thing is that once you realize what are your dominant chakras, you have to harness the power of those chakras, you have to harmonize those chakras and do things that come naturally to you, that have come naturally to you since your childhood. And through that, move closer and closer to self actualization, to self fulfillment. So that's the goal of this whole exercise. What is my strength? What are my strong chakras? What is it that I naturally do but have not harnessed it into something worthwhile, into something that can make me more productive, more creative, more joyful, more famous, more empowered, all those things. So